Hey.
I'm not gonna sound test this. I'm outside, as you can see, it's a little windy, and I really hope this audio comes through cleanly. But anyway, I am here to talk about Evan Mobley in this video. Super special player, super special defender at a young age, and I feel like people are just slightly missing the memo on him right now and wanted to set the record straight. So, as the title suggests, I went back through this past season, watched every block and steal that Evan Mobley had, noticed some trends that I'm going to talk about, and let's just talk about Evan Mobley. Now, Mobley is a very interesting case because he was a really high draft pick. He was consensus thought he was a good prospect coming into the NBA, and he's had two very successful seasons, and yet it feels like the only time his name has been brought up so far in his career, at least at a national media level, was due to the fact that he finished top 3 and was a finalist for the DPOY award this past season. He didn't win it and he came third, but still, he was a finalist. Which in of itself, for a second-year player, is something that is insane, just considering the amount of high-level defenders that are in the NBA on this date. And you can make the argument that, there's so much defensive talent that anyone could have finished third, but the voters voted how they voted. The voters voted how they voted, and Mobley finished third. Just give him the respect. I mean, it's not like he won the award. We don't have to go that crazy, but give him the respect. Anyways, I'm just here to reiterate that Evan Mobley is the real deal. He's one of the best defenders in the league already at the age of 21. Isn't even anywhere close to sniffing his prime and will only be getting better from this point on. It's just insane to me that people hold him at such a low regard. He's listed at 7 feet tall, 215 pounds, but he doesn't at all look like that when he's moving on the basketball court, and that's because of the fact that he actually is pretty fluid and is a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a very explosive athlete for being that size. That's a big part of why he is as good of a defender as he is. He's able to leap up very high and very quickly to either block or just alter shots. He's able to jump in the passing lanes. He's able to get into position quickly. And, his defensive IQ is also very good, and it's only going to get better. So he's just going to know more. He's going to learn offenses more. Basically, what I'm trying to say is he's probably going to be a DPOY level guy for at least the next decade or so. Now, I think the thing that stood out to me the most about Evan Mobley with his block attempts is just that he's really hard to move despite having a very, I don't want to say thin frame, but he's only 21. He's a tall, lanky motherfucker. He's not exactly the biggest guy yet. Yet I see these bigger centers that are 250 plus pounds try to back him down to the post, and they hit him, and then they try to go up with a shot as they are taught to do, but Mobley just absorbs those bumps and is able to stand his ground and leap up into the air very quickly and swat your shot. And it is something that just looks a little abnormal on the basketball court because there are very few defenders who are able to do this. Evan Mobley, one of his biggest strengths is that he is very good at just going straight vertical in the air on driving players. He's also got the extremely long arms, which just from an offensive standpoint makes the defender, you're even taller when you have your arms straight up in the air, and you have to put more arc into your shot, which is not an easy thing to do. I don't know what that was I just did, but the point remains. It's just Evan Mobley putting his arms up and having the long wingspan that he does. Simply, even if he doesn't block the shot, it just simply makes the shot so much tougher to make. Especially now in today's basketball age where it's very popular to drive at bigs and try to initiate all this contact and get to the free throw line because that's where the easy points are. And Evan Mobley, it's good to see that he's already at a young age really good at, again, keeping the arm straight, absorbing all the contact, making the shot as tough as possible for the defender rather than going out of his way to try to get blocks and you end up fouling players and none of that stuff, none of that bad stuff that coaches hate. But at the same time, just because he's not hunting blocks does not mean that he is not willing to go after them. In fact, there were many failed attempts from this past season to put Evan Mobley on a poster, which I will run through all very quickly because it's fun. It's basketball. At the end of the day, Evan Mobley is one of the best rim protectors in the league. It's awesome that he's in a defense right now where he's paired with Jarrett Allen, who most of the time gets dragged out to handle ball screens, leaving Evan Mobley to protect the rim. And Evan Mobley is on that type of tier where if he gets hot defensively, teams will just avoid the paint entirely, and that is a huge advantage to have for your team, which makes Evan Mobley a very important special player. Now switching over to the steal side of things, Evan Mobley only had 60 of them, which is still a great number, almost won a game. Now the really fun thing that I noticed with Evan Mobley rewatching his steals is that I already mentioned, he's just kind of a freak athlete, so that allows him to get in the passing lanes and tip passes, even at times where you don't expect him to, which again adds to just how great of a defensive player he is. But what I was really impressed by was his on-ball defending skills, because again, he moves pretty quickly, especially laterally for a 7-foot tall man. And because of that, he's able to stick with a lot of players, whether they are bigs or smaller guards. Even though, the guards and wings, they do get by him occasionally, but I know we're on the steal section now, but when it comes to these smaller players getting by him, he's really good at recovering and getting blocks from behind. He has a few chase down blocks that were very LeBron-esque. But anyway, back to my original point. He's good at sliding with offensive players, even if they are a bit smaller than them. But the best part about that is when those players pick up their dribble, they now have a 7-foot tall man with an even longer wingspan, all over them, trying to get the steal, covering passing angles. And I was really shocked at how many tipped passes Evan Mobley was able to get just at the point of the pass, covering the guy passing the ball. Because, usually one good ball fake and you're able to get it past a defender that's tight on you. But Mobley's reflexes are so good that even at the point of the pass and being glued onto someone, he's still able to get his hands and limbs on a lot of balls, which again just leads to a lot of fast breaks and easy points, which is something that is super good for your team, especially come playoff time. I mentioned playoff time to wrap up this video because, as we all saw in the most recent playoffs, Evan Mobley and the Cavs in general kind of laid an egg against the New York Knicks. Mobley didn't even get to double digits for points averaged in the series. Now, he was still great defensively, as we expected. But the point I'm trying to get at is if Evan Mobley does want to take that leap to being a all-NBA type guy, he's going to have to continue to improve his offensive game, which he has improved a decent amount since getting into the league. But it's much like Bam Adebayo's case. Not to compare players again like I did in my last video, because I know everyone hates it. But at the same time, I'm just very interested to see how Evan Mobley's career pans out when comparing it to Bam Adebayo's career. I'm someone who thinks that Bam is a little underrated in our league nowadays because he's another 4 or 5 big man who is a perennial DPOY candidate, has the ability to go off and have high scoring games every now and then, but at the same time is far from being the most aggressive player offensively. And I think those are all characteristics that match up well with Evan Mobley as well. And it made sense this past season with this being Mobley's second year in the league. He didn't come into the league being a guy that took a lot of shots. And then you add a player like Donovan Mitchell to his team, and you have Darius Garland, and those are two guys who are going to command a lot of shots. Even you have Jarrett Allen, who's just going to get a decent amount of shots being in pick and roll all the time with Mitchell and Garland. So that doesn't leave a whole lot of pie left for Evan Mobley, and it's tough because he's going to need reps to get better offensively, and he's only getting a certain amount so far in his career. Which the most frustrating part about that is he's shown flashes of scoring, he's shown flashes of playmaking, he just hasn't had the ability to really flush these things out, do things wrong, grow, and get better from there. And I think it's because of all of those things that while I want to be super high on Evan Mobley as a player, as he continues to get better in this league, because the ceiling for Evan Mobley could really be first team All-NBA. I do want to temper expectations because at the same time, I've seen how Bam Adebayo's career has played out so far, and I do think Evan Mobley could go down a very similar path where even if he does have some offensive chops, if he doesn't put up the scoring production that people want to see, I could very well see people turning on him, especially if he's, does that in the playoffs like he did this season. Even for someone like Bam, who just averaged 20 in the NBA Finals and should be beating those allegations, for some reason continues to not beat those allegations. And again, I could just see a very similar fate for Evan Mobley. Now, I don't want to end this video on a negative note, so I do just want to reiterate some things I said from the start. Evan Mobley is a very good basketball player. He is one of the best defensive players in the league. He will continue to be for, probably the rest of his career, just, being honest. But if he does want to hit his ceiling and become the best player possible, there are still question marks. But when it comes to him, when it comes to the Cavs roster, they're going to have to be answered. And whether they're good answers or bad answers, I can't wait to find out. And that'll be all for today's video. I hope you all have a good one. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll be seeing y'all in the next one.